In a galaxy far beyond our own, where civilizations thrive under the stars, one species has remained shrouded in mystery. A species with the power to reshape the universe, yet one that chooses peace despite their immense potential for destruction. Their story is one of complexity, restraint, and a terrifying understanding of warfare. This is the story of humanity, the most perplexing species the Galactic Council has ever encountered. Join us as we unravel the truth behind humanity's existence, their history, and the dark secrets that lie beneath their peaceful exterior. This is not just another story of war and peace, this is the tale of how a species learned to control its greatest power for the greater good. And the consequences of that mastery, but this is only the beginning. In the coming chapters, we will dive deeper into the incredible revelations that will forever change how the galaxy views humanity. If you're ready to explore the truth, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you won't miss a single moment of this incredible journey. The story has only just begun, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Part 1, Introduction to the Galactic Council's Assessment. The hum of the automated system echoed through the Grand Chamber as the archive began. High Counselor Thier, towering in his ceremonial robes, took his position at the central podium. The shimmering fabric caught the dim glow of the 12 moons that orbited above, casting strange shadows across the chamber's transparent dome. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, carefully scanning the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council, each species a living marvel of nature in their own right. To his left, the Mirians shifted, their flowing tentacles swaying like ancient vines in the wind. The crystallines, shimmering in their delicate elegance, stood poised, their bodies refracting the light in iridescent hues. And the nebulans, an eerie yet majestic presence, exhaled gossamer-like gases, their forms pulsing with a soft, almost hypnotic glow. Each species, a testament to the grandeur of the galaxy, had come to witness an unprecedented event, an assessment of humanity. The most peculiar species, Thier's voice resonated through the vast expanse of the chamber, each word measured, yet laden with mystery. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle into the minds of his audience. His eyes glinted with a cold curiosity. Humans, Earth, designation Sol 3, a murmur rippled through the assembly, the gentle hum of their collective voices rising like a whisper carried on the wind. The holographic display above the central podium flickered to life, showing scenes from Earth, images of children playing in parks, scientists toiling away in their laboratories, artists crafting masterpieces. A world of peace, of harmony, but Thier's expression hardened, his upper eyes narrowing. "Do not be deceived by what you see," he cautioned, his voice dropping, laden with the gravity of his realization. "We believe them to be a gentle species, untouched by the scourge of war. They seem perfect." A series of images flashed, showing humans in delicate exchanges with alien races, welcoming them with open arms, sharing their art, their culture, their science. The assembly watched, some nodding in approval. The Nebulan representative pulsed a soft shade of blue, impressed by the warmth and openness of the humans, yet, as Thier's eyes locked onto the projection, a flicker of doubt passed over his features. "But," he continued, the word cutting through the tension like a blade, "there is more to them than meets the eye. There is a darkness behind their smiles, a shadow that we have yet to fully comprehend." A sudden silence fell over the chamber, as though the very air held its breath. Thier gestured to the next image, a simple document, pristine in its presentation. The hologram displayed the Geneva Conventions. What we failed to see, what we almost missed entirely, was this: humans have achieved peace not through enlightenment, but through regulation. The entire chamber seemed to tremble at the weight of his words. A gasping silence filled the room, punctuated only by the hum of distant stars. "We were wrong. They did not evolve beyond violence. No. They chose to control it." His voice dropped to a near whisper. "And that, my esteemed colleagues, is what makes them so dangerous." The hologram flickered again, showing scenes from humanity's past: wars, devastation, violence, and destruction. Images that the Council had never seen before, historical footage humanity had kept hidden. This wasn't the sanitized version of Earth they had been shown. This was the raw truth. Thier's 4 eyes glistened, a chill sweeping through the chamber. "We were blind," he murmured. "We mistook their peace for innocence. But in truth, they have created rules to ensure their violence is precise, regulated, controlled." He turned toward the assembly, his voice carrying an ominous weight. "And that, my friends, is what we must understand. They have mastered war, and peace, in ways no other species has." A quiet murmur swept through the chamber. The weight of his revelation sank in like a stone cast into a quiet lake, ripples of realization spreading through the assembly. The Mirian's tentacles stilled. The crystallines shimmered in quiet contemplation. And even the nebulans, always shifting, now pulsed with a curious shade of violet. "Prepare yourselves," Thier said softly, a haunting edge to his voice. "What you are about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about humanity," and with that, the Council's journey into the heart of the human paradox began. A journey that would reveal the true nature of a species capable of both unspeakable destruction and a breathtaking, calculated restraint. The chamber was silent, save for the hum of the stars outside. The assessment of humanity had begun, and its revelations would echo through the galaxy for cycles to come. Part 2. First Impressions of Humanity. High Counselor Thier's voice echoed in the grand chamber, his tone measured, yet carrying a subtle undercurrent of intrigue. With a flick of his 4 hands, the holographic display above the central podium shifted, showing images of Earth, Sol 3, unfolding before the Council. At first glance, the world appeared tranquil, almost idyllic. The scene displayed children playing in lush green parks, their laughter rising in joyful harmony, a sight so pure it could have belonged to any peaceful, flourishing species. Next, the display shifted to humans in laboratories, scientists dressed in white coats, their faces glowing with the fervor of discovery. Immersed in their work. Their hands moved with the precision of mastery, handling instruments that reflected an almost divine command over the mysteries of their world. Creators, explorers, healers, this was humanity as the Galactic Council had hoped to find them. They seemed too perfect, Thier mused, his upper eyes narrowing in a rare show of vulnerability. These humans, what we thought of as a species burdened by war and strife, seemed to have achieved something we never anticipated. Peace. The assembly, which had been silent in rapt attention, began to murmur softly. The Mirian's tentacles swayed slightly, their tendrils vibrating in a pattern that suggested both curiosity and awe. The crystallines shimmered, their crystalline forms catching the light, while the nebulan representative pulsed with a soft blue, their gaseous form glowing like a distant star. Thier continued, his tone reflecting a growing sense of perplexity. "When we first detected their transmissions, when we observed their broadcasted entertainment, their records of conflict, of violence, we assumed their world was torn asunder. We expected chaos, disarray. But when we arrived on their planet, we found this, serenity." The hologram shifted again, showing humans extending their hands in friendship, welcoming alien delegations with open arms. Images of interspecies dialogues, shared meals, and even collaborative artistic expressions filled the screen. Humans seemed eager to share not only their sciences but their culture, their art, their history, a gift offered without hesitation. "They welcomed us," Thier continued, a flicker of wonder in his voice. "With open arms, with the spirit of unity. There was no fear, no suspicion. Only the desire to connect, to exchange knowledge, to engage in peace." A soft, approving hum rippled through the chamber. The nebulan representative's gaseous form pulsed with a deeper shade of blue, as if in approval of the humanity's openness. Even the normally stoic Zenari elders shifted uneasily, their crystalline bodies refracting the light in various shades of contemplation. "It is admirable," Thier added, his voice becoming more introspective. "In fact, humanity's ability to accept other species, to embrace us without hesitation, struck me as nothing short of extraordinary. They seemed to possess a grace that defied our expectations. A desire to share their best with the universe." Thier paused, the weight of his next words hanging in the air. The holographic display flickered briefly, showing more intimate moments of human interaction with the galaxy's visitors, art exhibitions, scientific symposia, joint research efforts. The display portrayed humans immersed in cultural exchanges, their curiosity palpable, their enthusiasm infectious. However, Thier's 4 eyes narrowed further. A shadow passed over his scales, his tone shifting slightly. And yet, as I spent more time among them, I began to feel a sense of unease. A subtle undercurrent that I could not ignore. They did not seem naive in their peacefulness. No. There was something deeper beneath the surface. Something calculated. Something we failed to understand fully. He gestured toward the hologram, where images of human political structures, their rigorous governance, and their detailed legal systems appeared. Humanity's openness may be genuine, but their peace, their balance, is maintained through something far more complex than we first realized. The chamber fell silent again, the tension palpable. The Zentaur, their crystal formations chiming with a soft, harmonious resonance, seemed intrigued. The Zenari elders' surface facets clouded with concern, as they absorbed Thier's subtle warning. It is not simply the open exchange of knowledge or their apparent harmony with our cultures, Thier murmured, his voice lowering, laden with a deeper truth. It is their control over the very peace they claim to uphold. The chamber stirred with uncertainty. The Nebulan representative pulsed an uncertain shade of violet, a signal of concern. "What do you mean by this, High Counselor?" they asked, their voice laced with curiosity. Thier's scales rippled with the weight of a revelation he was hesitant to fully reveal. He turned toward the assembly, his voice growing firm once again. "I will explain further, but first, remember this. What seems peaceful on the surface may often be a facade, maintained by rules, by constraints. Humanity has found a way to master peace by first mastering war, and that knowledge, that restraint, is what we must now understand." The chamber remained still as the weight of Thier's words sank in. Humanity, it seemed, was not simply a species of gentle harmony. Their peace had been crafted, shaped, and controlled. And the deeper truth of their nature was only beginning to unfold. Underscore 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 underscore. Part 3. The reality behind humanity's peaceful nature. Thier's voice cut through the lingering tension in the chamber. His scales shimmered with a subtle shift, a signal that he was about to unveil something far more unsettling than the tranquil images of humanity's peaceful exterior. What we initially mistook for peacefulness, Thier began, was not a natural evolution of their species. No, they did not reach peace through enlightenment, through understanding or transcending their nature. They achieved it through something else entirely. The hologram above the podium flickered and shifted. The peaceful images of children laughing in parks and scientists collaborating gave way to something far more sobering. A single document appeared, crisp and immaculate, with a bold title, "The Geneva Conventions." A collective murmur rippled through the chamber, the weight of the words setting an uneasy tone among the representatives. The Geneva Conventions, human self-imposed laws governing warfare. Thier's voice grew colder as he continued, "These are not mere agreements or guidelines for diplomacy. They are rules, rules about how to conduct violence." A flicker of confusion rippled across the faces of the Galactic Council, and the holographic display expanded, showing the text of the Geneva Conventions, a meticulous set of regulations that dictated what humans could and could not do during war. No attacks on civilians, no torture, no chemical weapons. These were the foundations of the conventions, a cold but structured approach to something that other species, in their natural form, avoided altogether. The crystallines exchanged glances, their forms refracting the light in patterns of intense focus, while the Zenari elders' crystalline facets clouded with confusion. A slow, uneasy shift seemed to pass through the Nebulan representative. Their gaseous body pulsating a deep shade of red, you see, Thyr's voice dropped to a near whisper, humans did not evolve beyond violence. They did not suddenly become pacifists in the truest sense of the word. No. They regulated it. They control it, down to the finest detail. And in that control, they found their peace. A deep silence settled over the chamber. The hologram flickered, showing the first signs of conflict in human history: scorched battlefields, torn cities, and devastation from wars fought without limits. Yet, amidst this darkness, humanity had written rules to contain their most destructive impulses. They are not peaceful, Thyr continued, because they lack the capacity for violence. They are peaceful because they have mastered it. And, most troubling of all, they have chosen not to unleash it. The Mirian's tentacles swayed nervously. They had known war, and they understood the deep, primal chaos it caused. But the idea that a species could regulate violence so meticulously, and at such a scale, was a concept few had ever entertained. The crystallines hummed softly in the background, their lights flickering like a chorus of stars. The Nebulan representative's gaseous form shifted through a series of pale, puzzled shades, before eventually settling on a deep shade of violet, a color that suggested confusion, maybe even concern. But, why? The Nebulan asked, their voice trembling in disbelief. Why create such rules? Why not simply avoid war altogether? Thyr's scales darkened with the gravity of the question. That, he said solemnly, is the true essence of humanity. They could avoid war, true, but they have chosen not to. Instead, they regulate it. They have devised a set of laws to ensure that when conflict arises, it is measured, controlled, and precise. The Geneva Conventions are the backbone of their approach. The hologram shifted to show human leaders at peace talks, but instead of negotiating with goodwill, the humans were drawing up elaborate treaties that outlined every single action that could and could not be performed during wartime. The display zoomed in on one specific page of the document: war crimes. The crystallines' forms dimmed, reflecting a deep and unsettling realization. They knew the depths of violence, one murmured, so well that they had to write laws to govern it. The Zenari elders' crystalline surface glistened in the dim light, their voice laced with fear. What does this mean for us, High Counselor? The elder asked, their tone brittle. If they have laws to contain their capacity for violence, what does that say about their nature? What have they done to require such laws? Thyr's voice was firm, yet somber. It means that humanity has, at some point in their history, unleashed violence so great that they were forced to impose these rules to protect their own species, and others. It means that humanity has seen the darkness of war, and they chose to master it, rather than succumb to it. The hologram flickered again, now showing footage of humanity's historical conflicts, images of massive armies clashing, cities falling, and entire populations being decimated. The Geneva Conventions had not been born from a desire for peace, but from the horrific lessons of the past. The rules existed because humanity had seen the full extent of destruction they could cause, and they had sought a way to limit it. A ripple of unease spread across the assembly. The Zentaur, usually stoic and dispassionate, had their crystal formations vibrating in a subtle, discordant melody. The Mayan representative's tentacles coiled tightly. So they created peace through fear, they asked, the word carrying a weight that hung heavily in the air. Thyr's gaze grew intense. No, he replied quietly, they created peace through choice. They chose to set boundaries. They chose to regulate the violence they could unleash. And in doing so, they secured their peace, not because they cannot destroy, but because they know how. The realization hit the council like a thunderclap. The human species, so seemingly harmless in their peaceful exchanges and diplomatic gestures, were not the innocent children of the galaxy. They were a species who, through millennia of bloodshed, had learned the greatest lesson of all, how to control their own darkness. The chamber fell silent, as every species present grappled with the weight of the revelation. The crystallines, typically so calm, shivered in a way that sent a ripple through their crystalline bodies. The Zenari elders' faceted form clouded with an unsettling mixture of awe and fear. And even the Nebulans, usually indifferent to the concerns of others, were now in a state of quiet contemplation. What we thought we knew about humanity, Thier's voice echoed in the silence, has changed irrevocably. And now, we must ask ourselves, what is the true cost of peace, when it is maintained by a species with such a profound understanding of war? The question hung in the air, unanswered. And with it, the chamber was left to confront the most chilling reality of all, that humanity's peace, so carefully crafted, was not the result of their innocence, it was the result of their ultimate control over violence itself. The session continued, but the assembly had already begun to rethink everything they knew about humanity. Underscore 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 underscore. Part 4. Human Military History and the Evolution of War Crimes. Thier's voice grew grave as the weight of his revelation deepened. The hologram above the podium shifted once more, showing an image from the history of humanity, an image that marked the beginning of humanity's contact with the Galactic Council. The first ship from the Galactic Council arrived on Earth, Thier began, his tone measured but sharp with a hint of disbelief. Our ships were met with gifts, tokens of peace and goodwill. Humanity presented us with cultural artifacts, samples of their food, and tablets of greetings in over 4,000 languages. They welcomed us with open arms, and we believed them to be innocent, kind, peaceful. The hologram flickered, showing the arrival of the Galactic Council ship on Earth. A procession of human diplomats greeted the alien visitors, extending gifts with open palms. Humanity's cultural representatives, dressed in vibrant colors and displaying sincere enthusiasm, seemed to embody the epitome of diplomacy. For a moment, the council saw only what they wanted to see, a species eager to embrace the stars and share their knowledge, yet Thier's voice took on a darker tone as he continued. But the true nature of their military history had been carefully hidden from us. Humanity did not simply evolve to become peaceful. No. Over centuries, they fought wars, brutal, devastating wars, each one shaping the very rules they now follow. As the hologram zoomed out, a different image appeared, vast landscapes torn apart by war. Cities destroyed by brutal conflict, massive armies clashing in the bloodied mud of ancient battlefields. Thea's scales darkened as he continued. They wrote their laws after the first global conflicts, where entire populations were wiped out. Wars without rules. Wars of conquest, of destruction. The Geneva Conventions, the very document we now revere, was born from the devastation they caused. Humans devised a set of rules to limit the scope of their destruction, to prevent the horrors of the past from repeating. War crimes became their defining concept. A pause fell over the assembly as the hologram shifted once more, showing images from the infamous wars of humanity's past, the World Wars. Scenes of military parades, political speeches urging young men to join the war effort, and young soldiers marching off to fight for causes they barely understood. The council watched, some appalled, others intrigued, as the violent evolution of humanity's warfare was laid bare before them. It was through war that humanity learned the price of destruction, Thier concluded. And it was from this knowledge that they built the Geneva Conventions, not to prevent war, but to prevent war from being indiscriminate. As the last image faded, the silence in the chamber deepened. The members of the Galactic Council exchanged uneasy glances. Humanity's capacity for violence was not theoretical, it had been tested, again and again, through centuries of bloody conflict. And while they had chosen to regulate it, the question remained, could they ever truly escape the shadow of their violent past? Part 5. The Duality of Human Behavior. With the weight of the past now hanging heavy in the chamber, Thier's next words would bring even more startling clarity to humanity's nature, humanity's capacity for violence. Thier began, his voice steady yet laced with a deep undertone of caution, is not simply limited by the Geneva Conventions. No. They have mastered the art of restraint in ways that no other species has. They control violence, regulate it, and yet they are fully aware of the power they hold. The hologram above the podium shifted again, this time showing peaceful images of human life, families gathered around tables, scientists conducting peaceful research, artists painting canvases. But beneath these scenes, Thea revealed something far more unsettling, a split-second change in the very DNA of human behavior. At any moment, humanity could release the full force of their military might. At any moment, they could cast aside the restrictions of the conventions and wreak havoc upon the galaxy. But they do not. And that, my esteemed colleagues, is the true complexity of the human condition. It is not simply that they refrain from violence, it is that they have chosen how and when to apply it. The hologram flickered to show images of human soldiers in battle, each movement precise, calculated, as if every strike was part of a larger plan. Humans have not only mastered the art of combat, Thea continued, but they have mastered restraint. They understand violence better than any species we have encountered, and they choose to use it only when necessary. And when they do, they apply it with terrifying precision. The chamber was silent as the weight of this knowledge settled upon every representative. The concept of ethical warfare, a term that many found baffling, now began to make a terrifying kind of sense. Humanity's true strength lay in their calculated approach to violence, in their constant awareness of the destruction they could cause, and in their choice to keep it contained. The crystallines' shimmering light dimmed as they reflected on the unsettling truth, while the nebulons, their gaseous bodies rippling with thought, seemed to pulse with a deeper shade of red, questioning the very essence of their understanding of peace. Thea concluded, his voice carrying an almost reverent weight. Humanity's peace is not fragile, it is deliberate. And in their choice to maintain this peace, we must ask ourselves, what happens when a species with such power chooses to wield it for something greater than themselves? The question echoed in the chamber, unanswered and yet looming over the Galactic Council like a storm cloud on the horizon. Part 6, The Revelation of Captain Alexandra Steele. Thea's voice carried a new weight, a sense of mounting anticipation as he introduced a figure who had been central to his understanding of humanity. Allow me to introduce you to Captain Alexandra Steele, Thea began, his voice laced with a mix of admiration and unease. A United States Marine Corps officer, and one of the first humans to serve as a liaison in our exchange programs. The hologram flickered, showing an image of Captain Steele stepping off a transport vessel on Proxima Centauri station, her posture immaculate, her expression calm and composed. Despite her civilian attire, the way she carried herself was unmistakable, controlled. Calculating, a soldier in every sense, Captain Steele appeared to be, on the surface, nothing extraordinary. Thea continued, his voice lowering as the hologram zoomed in on Steele's face, her eyes calm yet perceptive. At first glance, she was polite, composed, and approachable. She greeted us as any diplomatic representative would, with grace and cordiality. But beneath that calm exterior, we were unaware of what lay hidden. The assembly remained silent, watching attentively as Thea's words hinted at something far deeper within the human psyche. Thea's 4 eyes narrowed, his scales shifting to a more reflective shade as he continued, over time, I began to observe something unsettling. Captain Steele's calm demeanor concealed an immense potential for violence, a potential she never once allowed to surface in our presence, not unless absolutely necessary. The hologram shifted, showing scenes of Captain Steele in various situations, leading teams, participating in discussions, exchanging knowledge with alien species. All her movements were precise, calculated, and utterly controlled, suggesting a deep awareness of her environment and the people around her. Yet, Thea saw beyond the surface. She did not act as we had expected, Thea continued. She did not reveal the true depth of her abilities in our casual interactions. Instead, she underperformed, choosing to keep her physical and mental capabilities restrained, to avoid alarming us, to maintain the appearance of civility. But when the time came for her to demonstrate her true strength, the reality of humanity's restraint became shockingly clear. A deep, unsettling silence filled the chamber as Thea's words sank in. Humanity had deliberately held back, concealing their true abilities in order to avoid triggering fear or conflict. But Captain Steel, it seemed, was the key to unlocking the full understanding of humanity's hidden power. Underscore 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 underscore. Part 7, The Training Incident and Its Aftermath. Thier's voice grew firmer, the gravity of the next revelation hanging over the assembly like a storm cloud. It all came to a head during a routine training exercise. Captain Steel was challenged by a Kraken warrior, one of the strongest species in the galaxy, to a full contact demonstration of combat. The hologram shifted once again, showing Captain Steel and the Kraken warrior standing across from each other in a training arena. The Kraken, known for their immense strength, was towering over Steel, its muscles rippling with power. Steel, however, stood with an air of calm that contrasted sharply with the Kraken's ferocity. The atmosphere in the room was tense, an impending clash, but one that Captain Steel seemed completely prepared for. What we did not expect, Thier continued, was how easily Captain Steel dismantled the Kraken warrior. Despite his superior strength, she took him down with a series of precise and controlled moves, none of them lethal, but all of them perfectly executed to neutralize the threat. The hologram played the footage in slow motion. Captain Steel moved with fluid precision, her actions so deliberate that they seemed almost effortless. She redirected the Kraken's strength against him, using his own attacks to bring him to the ground. It was clear, Steel was not simply outmatching her opponent, she was controlling the encounter. She responded with what seemed like effortless grace, her every move calculated, a stark contrast to the brute force of her opponent, Thier remarked. Yet, what struck us most was how she never overpowered the Kraken to the point of causing lasting harm. She controlled him, not through strength alone, but through superior technique, and an unyielding understanding of combat. The assembly shifted uncomfortably. The realization was starting to dawn on them, humanity's true nature was not one of mere restraint, but of a deeply ingrained, almost surgical precision when it came to using their violence. As the hologram shifted again, the situation changed dramatically. The training exercise had triggered an emergency. An unexpected malfunction in the station's systems caused an energy surge that sent toxic gas flooding through the training area. Captain Steel did not hesitate, Thier continued, his voice carrying a mix of admiration and a tinge of fear. She immediately shifted from combat mode to crisis management. In a matter of moments, she coordinated the evacuation of the training facility, guided the injured out of danger, and neutralized the immediate threat. The hologram showed Steel moving through the chaos, her actions swift and deliberate, as if she were in complete control of the situation. While others scrambled to contain the emergency, Steel remained calm, leading with military precision. Her response was instantaneous, Thier said, a note of awe creeping into his voice. In the span of minutes, Captain Steel had not only ensured the safety of every person in the facility, but she also neutralized the hazardous situation in ways that none of us could have predicted. The footage zoomed in on Steel, moving with unwavering focus through the gas-filled corridors, carrying injured beings to safety, while simultaneously directing the station's security team. Her every action was meticulous, efficient, yet executed with a level of care that was almost paradoxical to her fighting skills. What we saw, Thier continued, his voice unwavering now, was not simply a soldier in action. We witnessed the control that humanity has over its own potential. A species capable of overwhelming destruction, yet choosing restraint. Choosing to use their power not for dominance, but for protection. The room was silent now, every member of the Galactic Council grappling with the enormity of what they had just witnessed. The idea of controlled violence, of measured strength, was foreign to most. But for humanity, it was simply a way of life. We now see, Thier concluded, that the restraint we witnessed in Captain Steel is not an anomaly. It is the norm for humanity. They do not withhold their strength because they lack it, they do so because they understand what it means to wield it responsibly. And that understanding, my colleagues, is what makes them the most fascinating, and the most terrifying, species we have encountered. As the hologram dimmed and the chamber returned to its quiet contemplation, the council was left to ponder this disturbing yet awe-inspiring truth. Humanity had the power to shape their reality in ways that few could comprehend, and they did so with a level of restraint and control that spoke volumes about their true nature. Part 8, Captain Steele's explanation of human military philosophy. Thier's voice grew more contemplative, his tone now measured and reverberating with the weight of the next revelation. It is one thing to witness Captain Steele's abilities in action, but another entirely to understand the philosophy that drives her, and, indeed, humanity as a whole. A new hologram flickered into view, depicting a scene from Captain Steele's final briefing with the Galactic Council Security Committee. Steele, standing tall, her posture flawless, addressed the council with the same calm professionalism that had defined her every interaction thus far. In our conversations with Captain Steele, Thier continued, we sought to understand the philosophy behind humanity's military preparedness. And what she shared was profoundly unsettling. The hologram shifted to show Steele's calm face as she explained humanity's military doctrine. You see, she said, her voice steady and clear, we do not prepare for war because we seek it. We prepare for war because it is the only way we can ensure that peace endures. We prepare for conflict, but only as a last resort, only when diplomacy fails, and when there is no other choice but to defend the lives of those we protect. The council listened in stunned silence as Steele's words filled the chamber. The idea of preparing for war, in the name of peace, was foreign to many species present. For most, peace meant avoiding conflict at all costs. Yet for humanity, it seemed, peace could only be truly maintained if they remained ready for the worst. Thier continued, his voice soft but firm. What Captain Steele described was not a desire for violence, but a deep, ingrained belief that true peace comes only when you are ready to fight for it. Humanity's military training ensures that they are always ready for conflict, but only when every other option has been exhausted. This is their guiding principle. The training they undergo, rigorous, disciplined, and exacting, ensures they are always prepared for the unthinkable. But never do they rush toward it. The hologram now displayed images of Captain Steele participating in drills with other military personnel, her movements deliberate, each strike and counterstrike executed with precision. And what we witnessed in Steele's calm professionalism during emergencies, Thier continued, was not a soldier's reflexes acting without thought, but a mind that had been tempered by years of understanding when to fight, and when to avoid it. The chamber fell into a heavy silence. The idea of ethical warfare, of having a codified, regulated approach to using force, was foreign to many of the council members. The Mayan representative coiled their tentacles tighter in contemplation, and the Zenter's crystal formations refracted light in patterns of deep thought. What was becoming clear was that humanity's relationship with violence was not one of avoidance, but of measured, disciplined restraint. Underscore 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 underscore. Part 9. Human capability in their willingness to choose peace. With the gravity of Captain Steele's philosophy still lingering, Thier's voice took on a tone of reflection. We have learned something far more profound than we anticipated. Humanity's peace is not born from a lack of capability, but from the precise mastery of it. The hologram shifted once again, showing scenes of humanity's military forces in action, human soldiers working alongside other species in humanitarian missions, providing disaster relief, delivering medical supplies, and evacuating civilians from dangerous zones. Their military might was ever present, yet it was applied with striking purpose and intent. Humans understand the destructive potential they possess, Thier remarked, but they choose to direct it toward peaceful purposes. They understand their power, better than we ever could, and they choose to channel it not toward dominance, but toward protection. The hologram displayed more scenes of humanity working on environmental restoration. providing aid to alien worlds on the brink of collapse. In every instance, their military personnel worked side by side with peaceful diplomats and scientists, using their strength to secure safety, to rebuild, to ensure peace. Humanity's dual nature is now clear to us, Thier continued. They are not peaceful because they lack violence, but because they have mastered it. They understand war, intimately, but choose to wield it only when it is necessary to defend the greater good. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The concept of humans as a species with the ability to regulate their violence so efficiently, while simultaneously applying it in service to others, was deeply unsettling. For most, the idea that such power could be wielded so carefully, without the impulse for domination, was foreign. Their greatest strength, Thier mused, lies in their control over their own potential. It is not their ability to destroy, but their ability to choose not to. They understand the consequences of their power, and choose peace, despite their vast potential for destruction. The room was silent, the implications of Thier's words settling into the minds of the council members. The realization was dawning: humanity, in all its contradictions, was a species capable of unimaginable violence, yet one that had chosen a path of peace through control and restraint. Underscore 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 underscore. Part 10, Conclusion and Reassessment of Humanity. Thier paused, his gaze sweeping across the assembly as the final moment of the assessment approached. He could feel the weight of the council's shift in perspective. My esteemed colleagues, he began, his voice carrying the finality of the conclusion, we have been profoundly mistaken in our understanding of humanity. They are not peaceful because they are innocent. They are peaceful because they have chosen it. They are a species that balances immense potential for violence with an unwavering commitment to peace. The hologram faded, leaving only the faces of the council members, each processing the truth that had been laid before them. Humanity's willingness to choose peace, despite the power they could unleash, was something the Galactic Council had never anticipated. We must re-evaluate their role in the Galactic Council, Thier continued. Not as an innocent species, but as a valued one that understands conflict better than most of us, yet seeks to prevent it. Their understanding of war, their recognition of its destructive potential, and their ability to regulate it for peaceful purposes make them not just allies, but essential partners. The assembly rose in respectful acknowledgement, the chamber now filled with a quiet reverence. The council's view of humanity had shifted irrevocably. They were no longer seen as a species to be cautiously observed, but one to be worked with, one that understood power, and chose, in every moment, to wield it for the greater good. Thier concluded, his voice steady but filled with a new appreciation. Humanity's greatest weapon is their ability to wield power responsibly. And in their wisdom, they remind us that true peace is not born from the absence of violence, but from the decision to master it. As the chamber lights slowly rose, casting long shadows over the gathered council members, a new understanding spread across the room. Humanity, with all its complexities and contradictions, had earned its place among the stars, not because it was weak, but because it had mastered its greatest strength, restraint, and with that, the Galactic Council moved forward, now bound in partnership with a species whose capacity for both destruction and peace would forever change the course of the galaxy.